Before building this PC, we need to know how much it's going to cost. So quickly, if I add up all the prices of the PC, we know that it will cost £227 for a PC that can be upgraded in the future and that can run CSGO and Valorant at high settings over 100 FPS. Seems pretty good. This is the motherboard that can be found for about £60 on eBay new. I dropped it before and it still works, so I'd say it's a pretty good motherboard. The processor is an Intel Xeon 6-core processor at 3GHz. These are really cheap and perform pretty well. You can buy them for about £15 second hand, and I've paired this one with a 1050 Ti before, and they match each other perfectly. I know there's already thermal paste on the CPU, and that I'm putting more on, but it's close to dried up and I don't have any alcohol to wipe it off near me. Thermals on the processor don't matter anyway, as this motherboard doesn't allow us to overclock the Xeon, and it's got a power draw of only 65 watts at peak. The cooler that I'm using is an LGA 1366 Arctic 7 Pro Tower cooler. I don't think it's still being made, but any cooler that is compatible with LGA 1366 will work. The install process for this cooler is pretty simple, and the fan can be changed to create more space for the RAM. I got two 8GB modules of DDR3 RAM for £35 off webuy.co.uk, but I don't think they sell RAM anymore, so you could still get DDR3 RAM off sites like eBay and still get a good price on it. The motherboard doesn't allow RAM overclocking either, but that doesn't matter much, as in this build it'll be the graphics card holding us back a bit. This is a Xilinx 500W power supply, but I'd recommend getting something more like an EVGA 600W power supply. It's pretty cheap and made by a reputable brand, and would still work with this PC. Unlike the Xilinx power supply, which I'll get to later, the power supply goes at the top of the PC with some supports and screws to hold it in place. This case was the cheapest thing I could find, and it shows. Any case that is ATX should work with this build. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the channel since the last video. Next week I'll be thanking everyone who subscribes from now until my next video, but it has to be made public for me to know if you've subscribed. The graphics card is the HD 5870 that I benchmarked in the last video. This graphics card is great for CSGO and Valorant and only costs about £25. Another option is a GTX 650 Ti, which costs the same amount and performs similarly. The thing about this case is that to fit the graphics card in, I have to take out this metal bracket. However, it took me way too long. The Radeon 5870 is a very long graphics card, and only just fits in this case. If it was any wider, it would not fit. A problem I had with the graphics card was that it needed two 6-pin power connectors, but the power supply only had one 6-pin connector. So I need a dual Molex to 6-pin PCIe to fix this. Otherwise, the motherboard makes a really annoying high-pitched beep and doesn't show a signal to the monitor. Here, I'm just trying to do some cable management that I can do, and I'm plugging in the CPU power and the motherboard connector. It's hard to see, but here is the two 6-pin connectors that I didn't have power for without a Molex adapter. This is an 80GB SSD to store Windows and maybe a few photos. It cost me £12 from webuy.co.uk. But to store games and large videos, I've got a 500GB hard drive that cost me about £5 from webuy.co.uk. And there's another hard drive slot in the computer, so that could be upgraded with maybe a 1TB hard drive in the future when needed. So now I can put on the side panels on the computer, and I need to wait to get the Molex to 6-pin adapter. Then I can benchmark the PC. Okay, so now I have the PC working and have installed Windows, but how well does it perform? You might have seen my last video about the HD 5870, and I'll have a link to it in the description. There you can see how different games perform with this graphics card. But to get an idea of how well this processor can handle the HD 5870, I ran Cinebench and got a score of 3272. On a list, this is where it performs in multi-core performance. I also tried running CSGO at high settings with textures on low. The game was at 100 FPS plus at all instances, and you can see the processor never goes above 50%. There's also next to no lag or stutter when I played CSGO. So, what is this PC good for? It won't play modern AAA titles at high frame rates, but it's a good budget PC to either get into PC gaming, or if you just don't have the money to get something better. Thanks for watching.